But there's a downside effect, which is that these taxes can effectively constrict the bottom lines of businesses, in which case then the exploration of further economic opportunities within the economy becomes challenging. They don't do that.
Sure.
So the alternative, which is the proposition that is being advanced, is that we'll cut down these taxes. That will provide some level of tax savings. The assumption is that then these tax savings will further explore, chase these opportunities. But there's a caveat there, assuming that the growth opportunities are going to be pursued by the businesses anyway. So I need to reconcile that. That is one.
Okay.
The second part, which for me is interesting, whether we like it or not, the NPP as a political party will inherit a certain fiscal basket that, sorry to say, is messed up, right? You are raking in revenue.
Why are you sorry?
Oh,
so we consider it as French. Okay, all right, okay, go on.
I like that.
So, because you have revenue mobilization, even under the current regime, where businesses are not doing so well, we have so much taxes, revenue that you're raising is a little over 42 billion cedis. You're spending, and the spending we're talking about, you've highlighted some of them. Some of them are very statutory. You can't do anything about them. Some of the obligations the government cannot run away from, even if the NPP is elected. You can't say you stop paying these debt, these interest payments. I mean, they've been racked up already. You can't say you cut back on wages and salaries. We are seeing certain reforms. They haven't necessarily materialized the way we want them to. You've seen implementation and passage of the public financial management law, right, which appears to consolidate all of these, laws that we had in bits and pieces that essentially resulted in people spending money anyhow. There's a certain consolidation, and so even if the NPP is elected, that becomes a certain working document for public financial management reform. So clearly, I see in my head a certain pressure and expenditure as we speak today. If we should put these statutory ones,
There's just two questions.
No, I'm going to land.
Okay.
If we put all of these, I'm laying a sound premise, so the question the viewers can appreciate it, right?
Absolutely.
If we put all of these together, you're spending nearly 49 billion. So clearly, you have a certain pressure that is sitting with you. Okay, so the money that you may have to play around, by some computation, around 9 billion. Challenge becomes the moment we begin to create some of these reliefs in taxes we have seen, and some of them are quite unclear to me, because even if you look at payment of corporate taxes, some of them are based on, you don't have flat rates. I mean, depending on where the business, for instance, is located, if it's in the regional capital, the taxes are different. If it's away from the capital, taxes are different, depending on what industry. So I've not really understood. Maybe there's going to, once the party is elected, we can get. I'm assuming the party will be elected here.
Inshallah.
So if it is elected, these are some of the things that I want to see. I don't know. I mean, they haven't provided clarity on that, so it's still not clear
Ibrahim.
to me. But I'm saying that if these pressures exist and we're creating these reliefs, an immediate gap will be created in financing. What I've not heard are strategies to close that gap, because if you expect the savings to generate the right returns for investments, in which case bottom lines will grow and your lower taxes will effectively create the revenues you're looking for, right? If you expect that model to work, it's going to take 12, 15, 16 months down the line. Because if I make tax savings as a business today, you don't get the I need to invest that.
But to help you answer that question, though, I reckon that these are suggestions that you have in your manifesto.
They're in the manifesto.
That's sprawled over. I mean, spread over some period of time, isn't it?
Yes, but let me quickly answer, Patrick. It's fantastic intervention Patrick has made. He wants to know, how do you square the circle? When you reduce taxes, given the deficit which has been induced by corruption, how do you do it? You mentioned that we have around 8 or 9 billion Ghana cedis to play with. Good. The Auditor General report said that between 2012 and 2014, 5.9 billion Ghana cedis cannot be found. This is the Auditor General report. 5.9 billion, let's say 6 billion Ghana cedis. What's that in dollar terms? $1.5 billion. Not according to the NPP, according to the Auditor General's report. So there you know, first and foremost, how we are hemorrhaging. We are bleeding because of malfeasance, misappropriation of funds, and outright thievery. So Patrick said, what about the strategies to curtail this? Good. First of all, we want to have a debt restructuring as part of our initiatives. How do we have an example of how we did that? Yes. In 2001, we met the same situation economically that we are meeting right now. What was one of the first things that President Kufuor did? He did, in fact, on February the 18th, 2001.
Epic.
He made a phone call to President Obasanjo of Nigeria, and we were able to restructure our oil import supply. He gave us a credit facility of 90 days. So now we had 90 days to receive petrol from Nigeria, or petroleum products, use them, tax them, and then pay. And that enabled us to stabilize on the energy sector at least. So we're able to have petroleum products in the country from which everything else runs accordingly. Second, that's one point. Again, we're going to also have an independent prosecutor. Again, this is a strategy. When you have 5.9 billion Ghana, 6 billion cities unaccounted for, this is not some ANAS investigation. From the horse's own mouth, 6 billion can't be found. That's from 2012 to 2014. I shudder to think what the figures are from 2014 to now. What with all the smarties and what have you going inside the equation. So clearly you see that the NPP under Nanado, we've taken a critical look. And because we've done it in the past, we've been able to restructure debt. And when you restructure debt, it then gives you that space, that breathing space that Patrick talked about. Because if you only have 8 or 9 billion to play with, of which the 8 or 9 billion, I've already shown that we're putting strategies in so that that's 6 billion that has gone missing under President John Dramani Mahama. Add that 6 billion to the 8 or 9 billion, you're looking at now 15 billion.
You have to say that.
Oh, it's important. No. It's very important that we say that, because Ghanaians need to know why we are suffering so much. Why is it that our electricity bills are more than our rent? Because they've added 17.5% VAT. Cumulatively, since 2009, we've had over 340% cumulatively increase in our electricity bills, and we are paying for it. How does a car power merit deal? From General Electric, the turbines cost $220 million. At the METCA, which was signed in Parliament, what does METCA do? METCA is the company that provided the additional infrastructure. You can't just put a generator down and think it'll work. You need off-takers. You need those engineering components to take the generator power and then feed it into the national grid. That took it to $330 million. Signed in Parliament. Then again, under President Mahama, it shoots to $510 million.
Let's not get into that space now.
Why I've landed on that point, Kwame. I mentioned it purely to explain why Ghanaians are paying more for electricity than their rent, because we are paying for that. You know, it's amazing. President Mahama said we are not in an economic crisis. When did we ever have a case where one olonka of Gary costs more than one olonka of rice? Olonka of Gary now is retailing at 12 to 15 Ghana cedis per olonka. Just go to Nima Market.
You go there to buy yourself?
Today is Wednesday, Anamabwa, Alomale.
Yeah, it is Wednesday.
It's market day. Go to Nima Market right now, and you'll see how much a olonka costs. I'm just making that an analogy, relating it to how the strategies are. When you have an independent prosecutor, the position will be, I'm talking Attorney General, that position will be advertised. The Judicial Service will interview that person and then give that appointment. So there'll be no fear or favor. So we can find out where 6 billion Ghana cedis, which has gone missing, went to, whereby we can prosecute people. Because you find, Kwame, the corruption, the endemic corruption. Corruption is such a sanitized word. Jew, stealing, thievery. That's what we have to call a name, a spade a spade. And in addition, we're now going to make sure that when it comes to corruption, we're moving it from a misdemeanor to a felony. What does a felony mean? It now means that it attracts custodial sentence. And this is what Ghanaians want to hear, that they have honest leadership who will act and bite. Because when we do make these interventions in, now when you are found to be corrupt, you can't say it's a misdemeanor. Under the manifesto and vision of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, he wants to make sure that we put Ghanaians first.
Okay.
The hand up that I mentioned, because now it'll be a felony. Ghanaians need to know that politicians will be prosecuted
Ibrahim,
under Nanado, and their money will be kept safe.
We probably will do this again, part 2 tomorrow, if you guys have the time tomorrow.
I have a quick follow-up, just a quick one, right?
Okay.
So, at the moment, as an independent person who watches both political parties in the Fourth Republic, I struggle. Now, again, I struggle because we're making a certain assumption that there are certain public leakages that will close up and that could possibly make up the revenue. And that's what I've struggled with the strategy that's come from the NPP. because I take corruption as a given in every sort of modeling that you expect to drive growth.
Yes.
Okay, I'll take corruption as a given. Yes, the level at which you see it will depend the extent to which it will eat away resources. But you're talking about a certain existential pressure that the government is confronted with. Even if these, anti-corruption strategies are supposed to be implemented. Yes. My argument is that the supposed gap in revenue that we will have will not be made up by these strategies. And we shouldn't even assume holistically that corruption is going to go away, because majority of the corruption is not necessarily the politician that is elected. That politician appoints somebody who has, so you find a certain agency relation between the politician and a certain public official. Yeah. And that person, in my view, is more corrupt. And so these strategies, yes, are sound. They improve the public financial management space. But in terms of that gap that will be created, I'm expecting some other economic strategy rather than dealing with corruption. That's my challenge.
Yeah. You know what, guys? Ibrahim, we are back again same time tomorrow. So it's part 2 of this conversation.
Very good to have this conversation.
Part 2 tomorrow.
Very good to have.
So we have a day tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, tomorrow,
with the viewers, not with you.
Tomorrow will be at the Vandal City Observatory at the Commonwealth Hall for the next edition of the Manifesto Dialogues, where we are discussing youth employment. We have the NPP, CPP, and NDC showing up for this contest, whilst we wait for the other parties to have the clearance sorted out. So, but for tomorrow, they'll have the NPP, NDC, and CPP to talk about youth employment at Observatory at Commonwealth Hall from 4 p.m. tomorrow, Thursday, the 13th of October. So make a date with us there for us to have that conversation, and then listen to what the guys have to say, and then listen to what questions that the Vandals have to ask. Mind you, we have about 80K or so students that are churned out from the universities every year. How do they get employment? That's if any at all, especially when we are told that some of the IMF requirements has to be with a certain freeze on employment and all of that. So we'll see what the parties have for us when it comes to youth employment when we meet at Legon to discuss Manifesto Dialogue. But of course, these guys are here tomorrow for us to have a part 2 of the conversation on the issue of the economy as pertains in the NPP's manifesto. Actually, I'm more curious about how the conversion, Ibrahim, if you like, from taxation to production, because
it's complicated modeling.
Because it's, I agree, because I stopped looking at the tax component of my salary a long time ago. I stopped looking at it. And I understand that when you buy certain things, the tax component is actually so much that they just kind of kill it.
In 15 seconds, I can quickly explain briefly, and we'll expand on it
15 seconds.
Imagine tax as being a handcuff.
Yeah.
Okay? What Nanado wants to do, God willing, inshallah, is to remove that handcuff so that you can start working. And so when you're working, you're actually producing. Tax does this to your arm. Kwame, if you look at my way, please. Yeah. Tax does this. It ties your hand. What we want to do is to release the hand. And as you work, then you you become productive. We tax that productivity. In 2004 to 2008, we in fact lowered corporate tax and we increased revenue. So it's been done before. And I mentioned to
depends over time,
no, but I gave you
talking what's happening now. Once you
we are back tomorrow, Thursday, October the 13th, to have the part 2 of this conversation on of course we start off tomorrow with the issue of the taxation, dropping the tax elements. And mind you, as I said before, Nanado met up with Adjei earlier today, and they said that, look, be careful about how you want to do this. Yes, we agree, we are being taxed too much, but let's tread cautiously on how we do this. Ibrahim, Adjei, and Stephenson will be here again same time tomorrow for that conversation. My name is Kwame John. Have a good night.
Is now open and the closing date is 20th October. The course is for all those wishing to learn how to produce, promote and market content. In only 8 Saturdays, you will be taught the technical and creative side of content. Are you interested in TV content creation? Then this course is for you. After 8 Saturdays, you are guaranteed an internship at ETV, YFM, Happy FM, and our online platforms. Inclusive of snacks and drinks, you only pay 900 cedis. That is not all. For an optional class in reading, TV news, or presenting for radio, you can pay an extra 100 cedis. Closing date for buying and submitting of forms is 20th October and the starting date is 29th October. For more information, applicants can visit our website www.etvghana.com. Registration forms are going for 50 cedis and can be bought at ETV Ghana offices in Asylum Down or call SOFA on 020-2222-092. Sign up now and learn from industry professionals.
ETV Ghana, your world of quality TV.
Wuna wachemi odopa no kwani da wa meka mi pa wudo ndi agro when you